Hi guys, it's Courtney. Today I'm making a card using the plaid background and painted rose stamp sets, both by Concord 9th. I started by taking a piece of Nina Solar White cardstock and placed that in my MISTI for the background. I knew more than likely I would have to stamp this twice. I'm going to use Intense Black ink by Simon Says Stamp for both images because for the rose I will be doing some Copic coloring. For the background, I didn't worry about the placement on the cardstock just because I knew that I would be cutting it down in the end. The rose in the painted rose stamp set is quite large, so I also used my MISTI for that. This is a layering stamp set that gives it kind of like a watercolor look, but in this case, I'll just be using the outline so that I can Copic color it. The plaid background stamp comes with another stamp that creates lines to go in between those little blocks of the plaid design, and it will stamp two at a time so it's easier for placement. I'm using Lipstick Red ink by Simon Says Stamp just to give it a little pop of red. I planned on coloring my rose red as well. Once the background was done, I went ahead and put that aside and moved on to the Copic coloring. I started with my lightest color, which is an R22. This will eventually be my highlight in the end. And I just went around that rose and added where my darkest areas will be and where my shadows will be. Some of those petals have little notches on the top, and I do plan on making those dark as well to add a little bit of dimension to the rose. Once my lightest color was down, I moved on to my darkest color, which is an R59. I'll show you the first three petals and then I'll speed things up while I finish the rest of the rose. I'm using small flicking motions just to make it easier to blend in the end. Next, I moved on to my next darkest color, which is an R46, and just extended those flicks a little bit more. Next was the R24, which is actually going to be mostly my mid-tone, so I extended those flicks almost all the way to the edge of the rose petal. And last, I filled that in again with my lightest color back to that R22 and finished up those petals. my coloring was done, I went ahead and die cut that rose. I took my background panel and cut that down to just slightly smaller than 5.5 by 3. And I created a mat using Simon Says Stamp black cardstock, cutting that down to 3.25 by just slightly smaller than 5.5. I used Tombow Mono multi-glue to go ahead and adhere that plaid background onto that black cardstock mat. My card panel is just slightly smaller than an A2 size card, and I centered that on the card panel horizontally. I just took a sentiment from the Concord 9th You Are Here stamp set. It says love you. It's a small sentiment. I wanted to keep it small so that you could see that plaid background. I'm using my Versamark ink and heat embossing this with white heat embossing powder. I went ahead and cut that strip down and used Scotch foam tape on the back of the rose as well as the back of the sentiment. Once that was done, I went ahead and adhered that right down to the center of that plaid background and then placed that on an A2 size card base. And that is it for today. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope you have a great day.